forget to hit the record button. There you go.
I hit the button because it is February 9th, and it is the World of Deathmatch special episode, our first in over a year, probably. I'm joined by Brett Lauderdale, the proprietor of Game Changer Wrestling, and our very special guest, Skinny Moose from the Deathmatch Avengers. What up, y'all?
What's up, Steve?
You say it. Just chilling, relaxing, getting the new house put together and stuff.
So tell us about the new house.
Well, where's the old house?
Well, the old house is across town, still in Kentucky. Went from basically a 2-bedroom rundown house to a 3-bedroom that could be converted into a 5-bedroom. Little ones have their own room. I have my own studio. It ain't put up yet. Really, I have my room, which is bigger. Just better for the family. Nice size backyard. Well, it's a backyard. I could put a trampoline in it. I could put. I have a bonfire dugout and stuff. So it's probably big enough to run a no ring, or I have a few wrestlers down here. I mean, I got a nice size yard. So, and then
where in Kentucky do you live? What's your town?
Central Song and Lexington.
Lexington. Okay. All right. So tell us a little bit about Deathmatch Avengers, because not everybody knows. Me and Steven know because, we follow everything, but not everybody from the GCW Patreon knows who you are or what the Deathmatch Avengers are. So just tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Okay, so we started it back in 2022, the end of 2022. If I'm not, we actually got our nicknames. It was me and Squirrel, Fat Squirrel, who started it. My wife gave us the nicknames, and then Chubby Chipmunk came along, and that's later. He's a really good friend of ours off camera. And then some other Brian came along, and then one of our good fans jumped on. And we do a lot on the channel. We do interviews, reviews, updates, prediction videos. We just basically do it all. We've actually covered some GCW stuff if y'all want to go check it out. My love for wrestling came from when I was young, Carnage Cup, and then I've built my way up into CZW, GCW, Jersey. I like the Jersey wrestling. I've always been a big ECW guy. Growing up, though, as I've mentioned in my documentary that I'm doing, I kind of bared away from wrestling, more hardcore wrestling, and now I'm coming back to it. I actually came back to it at the end of the pandemic. Never really went away from it. I just always wasn't around it or whatever. But,
All right, so hold on. Let me just cut you off because so bottom line is the Deathmatch Avengers it's a YouTube channel, right?
Yeah.
Yes, and you review shows, you preview shows, you interview wrestlers, deathmatch wrestlers, everybody from like the lowest level guys to the big names like Mr. Danger, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We actually have to schedule Shadow WX from Japan and Sakuda.
Yeah.
I mean, I've interviewed lesser known guys. I've interviewed.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Give us some more on your resume.
I've interviewed guys like Mr. Danger, Necro Butcher, Madman Pondo. I've interviewed basically the whole Deep South roster, including John Rare. I mean, if there's a wrestler that want to do an interview, I'm down for it. From any promotion, as long as they're a good, name and they haven't been blacklisted or whatever, I'm cool with.
All right. So, me and Steven, we've been following a little bit. We watched some of your videos, and basically, we consider you to be one of the deathmatch experts, like one of the hardcore deathmatch chud experts. And of course, when we call you a chud, that's a term of endearment, So
yes, sir.
You're like the ultimate chud expert. So So good. So what's your favorite promotion is IWA Deep South? Is that right?
Yes, sir. I remember when you worked over there for Kevin Banner. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. It's the most. I think you called it the most brutal and the most vicious deathmatch tournament, something like that. Is that right?
Yes, the most brutal deathmatch tournament that you will ever lay your eyes on. And I mean, I've watched Japanese from back in the early, 90s and stuff. But Kevin wants to be remembered when he steps away from deathmatch wrestling as a Roman gladiator type of guy. And I feel like he gives that vibe off because, yeah, you see like Slade and Hoodfoot and GCW, but it seems like every time Kevin does something, there's going to be a big, bad, major injury. And John's had it done, Bryant Woods. I mean, the list goes on with the workers, Spider Boudreaux. Um, they get looked at as backyarders, but in my personal opinion, I don't really say they're backyarders. I've had backyarders on the channel, but, opinions, everybody has one, so I can't really say nothing.
All right. Now that's good. That's. I'm glad you said that. Now, Steven, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Steven, I'd like to hear. Now we've heard Skinny Moose give his opinion on IWA Deep South. I want to hear your opinion on IWA Deep South, and don't hold back. Skinny Moose is open to all opinions. He respects what anybody says. So let's hear your opinion, Steven, on IWA Deep South.
I mean, it's really a tale of two cities kind of thing where I remember back in the tape trading days, there weren't a lot of death matches. You would get CZW that they would do shows each month, but there'd be one death match per show, and then they'd have the TOD, in the summer. So the Carnage Cup was just a yearly deathmatch tournament where you knew you were going to get 8 or 10 or 12 awesome fucking matches. And back then, I mean, maybe the talent pool was smaller, but it was just different. But you would have a Carnage Cup that had Drake and Danny Havoc and Matt Tremont and, I'm trying to get more guys. The Necro Butcher, and these were top tier dudes. So the Carnage Cup was on the same level as like TOD. I think that now though, because of a million factors, now the Carnage Cup is much more in its own little circle. You see the same guys where it's like Chewy and John Rare and dudes that don't really get up to like H2O and Game Changer and stuff. So, I mean, now I think, I don't know, there's so much wrestling that Carnage Cup isn't going to get my 3 hours, if I can put it that way, because there is just so much wrestling now. But back up until 2020, it was one of the biggest tournaments.
Interesting.
I definitely have to say that Carnage Cup this year, 14, so last year, my fault, is probably one of the best. And if you ain't checked it out, definitely do so. I mean, like, Brett Lauderdale's had Brent Woods in the show. Brent Woods was there. Of course, you have your regular roster guys, like you were saying, Steven. But then you had Masada come out. You had Mickey Knuckles come out. You've had Sakuda come over from Japan. You had the body there. I mean, like XPW, some of the XPW guys was there, and a lot of big names was there this year on top of the regular roster. And then the Shit It Out show had some, like Mickey Knuckles was on that one too. I think she done like 4 matches over the weekend. And then you have like some lesser known guys that's works for Kevin too. Like you got Redneck Rebel. He's been in Carnage Cup. Well, more of the Gauntlet, and he was in the Shit It Out show. And then you got
the what? The what show?
The Shit It Out show.
Shit It Out show. Why don't you tell us what that is?
Basically, it was a spinoff of Carnage Cup 13 show, and it's done by Boris Stokey and Turdy. So you have Turdy World Order, and then you have Boris Stokey. And if you do not know who that is, it's on Title Match Network, and they go into full detail on who Turdy is and Demon Turdy and all of them. And a matter of fact, I actually have a Turdy plushie.
Oh boy.
Go check it out. But yeah, that's yeah. But like I said though, you a lot of big names.
like, how do you, to be honest, how do you rank IWA, higher than any other their show when they're only running 3 or 4 times in the whole year?
I mean, they run. Well, last year they ran Southern Outlaws in May, and then they had the Carnage Cup. So that was probably 3 times, like you said. But what in a tournament, you know what you're going to get. You're going to get your regular guys, your roster, and then you're going to get your big names, and then you're going to have how many ever matches in a tournament. So normally it's 3 rounds. Sometimes if you're lucky, you get 4 rounds. You know what I'm saying? But you're going to see a winner, obviously, and you might see somebody get hurt. But in Carnage Cup, you're bound and determined to see more than you would normally see from like H2O or GCW. I mean, this is where basically some of the wrestlers that I've interviewed has said you have to go through Carnage Cup to be a top tier, not a big name, but to be something. And what I mean by that is if you go back and you watch Carnage Cup, a lot of big name workers have been in Carnage Cup. And currently, there's big names in there. I mean, we had Masada, like I said. So I think a lot of big name guys go to Carnage Cup, even if you just go there to take the title. Hey, I was in Carnage Cup one time. That's still, you can't take away from the show. And that's what I tell people. You could take away from the promoter, but you can't take away from the promotion itself. IWA Deep South basically made death matches back in the day. I mean, like you had 4 big promotions: XPW, IWA Deep South, Mid South, and CZW. I mean, yeah, Ian was running.
When did you start watching? When did you start watching death matches? How old are you? 25, 24?
25, yes, sir.
25.
I mean, like, we've had big names. Even Brett Lauderdale himself was a referee there. So, I mean, we can go like John. Well, he's a regular.
Wait. So real quick, so I got to ask, were you literally like 10 buying tapes of this stuff?
I was about 5 or 6 years old when I first seen my first.
No way.
And it was Necro Butcher.
Hold on. You started watching this stuff when you were 5? So you're saying you've been watching this for 20 years?
No shit, yes, sir.
So how? Like your dad or something?
My mom's ex-boyfriend bought the tape. And I was like, I watched ECW when I was young, and I was like about that age, and I was like, well, what's this? And then I watched, Carnage Cup, and I was like, what the fuck? I was like, what are these guys using, and why are they so bloodied up stuff? And that I just felt my attraction into death matches right then and there. Like I instantly fell for the love of hardcore and blood, and a lot of time I spend watching more of bloody matches. But if you're going to have a good death match, you got to have good technical skills also. So
all right, now I want to talk about what you just said right there. You just said there's more. Basically, what you just said is there's more to being a deathmatch wrestler than bleeding, right? Is that what you're saying?
Yes. Like, one thing, that is exactly what I'm saying. Okay, so like, if you have a good deathmatch wrestler, okay, you can have any type of deathmatch wrestler, but you're going to have a good wrestler with technical skills and a good story to make a good deathmatch. I mean, for instance, Masada, hell of a deathmatch wrestler, and the man can also work as a technical wrestler. And there's plenty of others. Mance Warner. I mean, like, you can keep going.
All right, wait a minute. Now, what about Lil Sicko?
Now, Little Sicko, I got to give it to him. He could take some pain, and that's one thing you got to have in wrestling. Now, he's more of a high flyer in my book. So, of course, he can wrestle. I've seen this man wrestle on YouTube. I've seen him wrestle live. Matter of fact, if you go to his look him up on YouTube, you'll see that he does technical wrestling in his spare time. He's not always about death matches.
In his spare time?
well, when he's not working, you know what I mean? Like he's got a shoot
When he's
job.
not working?
When he's got a shoot job and he has a family. So when he's not, I guess, being, a father or a husband or whatever, and he's being a wrestler, a worker, then he does technical wrestling aside of deathmatch wrestling.
Wait, are you saying he does other shows, or you're saying like in his fucking basement he goes and technical wrestles his like neighbor or something?
No, he has actual other shows down in Alabama. He does other shows.
Gotcha. In his spare time.
Yeah.
Now, let me ask you this. All right, so let's go through the history books here. IWA Deep South history books. What about a guy like well, let's talk about Spider Boudreaux. Where is he on the list of all-time deathmatch wrestlers?
I gotta say that he's on my Southern Deathmatch Mountain Rushmore. I grew up watching.
So how do you, real quick, what do you separate Southern to the rest? I mean, what's the line?
Okay, so like your Southern boys are the ones that done death matches down here in the South. So that would be like Tank, John Rare, Terry Houston, the ones that basically made our foundation for the Southern boys. And then you got your Japanese. For me, it would be my Japanese death match. And then you got your big one, which is like Necro Butcher and Masada. And I wouldn't say Cactus Jack or like any of those because that's more of hardcore, even though they was kind of doing death matches. I'm more towards like Necro for
but that's not all right. So are the Southern guys above, below, like why are you breaking them up? I mean, what I'm asking is, where is Spider in the all-time deathmatch list? Is he one of the all-time legends? Is he somewhere in the middle? I don't want to hear about the Southern legends. I want to hear about the all-timers.
I mean, my all-time, I would say Spider's probably not too low on the list, but not too high. So probably mid-tier for me.
Like what?
Gotcha.
Like 15?
I'd say probably maybe around that 15, between 15 and 12. Yeah.
Okay.
Interesting. What do you think about his matches with John Rare? All his legendary matches with John Rare. Where do you put those?
They're probably one of my favorites because I do know that if we're talking about the spiders, the Saw death matches, I know that they started by Drake and Thumbtack Jack, but I'd really have to say that the one from Carnage Cup 11, the three Saw death matches back to back to back was one of my favorites. But I would have to say with all the current death matches, I wouldn't rank it the lowest, but I'd put it probably around 5 or 6.
You know that I once refereed a Spider versus John Rare match.
The first ever match that Spider and John Rare done, and you witnessed the stabbing live.
I was the referee, dude. Can you believe it?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
That was one of the craziest things I ever witnessed live. And I don't even know if that's good crazy, but it was crazy.
So
how did you feel reffing that match?
All right, go ahead.
Well, it was well, I knew that they were both crazy. I knew that they were both fucked in the head. So, I of course I wanted to, my hope was that nobody was going to get hurt, that they could do their thing and not get hurt. So, I mean, there's only so much I can do other than be there if something like, I don't know, somebody gets stabbed or something like that to make sure that they're not going to die. So there was a couple spots. I don't know if you remember, but after he got stabbed, he got thrown off the top of the vending machine and he smacked his head on the floor.
That I thought it actually killed Spider then and there. And you,
not
mistaken, you went ahead and ended that match right then and there, if I'm not mistaken. Or
I don't remember exactly, but I remember thinking that he was in really bad shape.
I know either you stopped it right then and there, or you was wanting to, and the match didn't go on much longer after that.
Stephen A. We should do a watch along next time and play it back.
I can do it right now. For real.
Yes.
Well, don't do it right now because I'm on I need to get on a better device to do it. But I remember Spider Boudreaux's head bouncing off the ground like a basketball, and it was bad. And he was definitely concussed. And I don't know if you know. I don't even remember. I think he did. So they had a battle royal later in the show, and I think he went out and wrestled again. Did he wrestle again?
It was the loser battle royal. All the losers, yeah.
Because he wanted to go out, and I said, "There's no way this guy should be allowed to go back into the ring." And they were like, "No, he's fine. He's fine." I was like, "This guy's not fine." I don't remember if they let him go or not.
Now,
I mean, that's. Go ahead. Sorry.
Skinny, I gotta ask you. It's sorry. There's three of us, so I gotta grab spots. But anyway, so when you think of the Southern, the IWA Deep South, the Boudreaux and stuff, do you think there's more danger and there's less people watching out compared to like H2O or something?
So you're asking me, do I think Carnage Cup is more dangerous, or
like, do you think that if like Spider Boudreaux was obviously he was cut up, he was stabbed, his head hit the concrete, do you think that in CZW they would have let him go out and do a jobber battle royal?
It depends, because in my opinion, if the nurses has done checked you over and they okay it, which probably not at that point in time, then no, I wouldn't think so. But also in that position, where are you to stop the man from going out? I mean, that brings up what I was just thinking about. We had fucking Nick Gage die in the ring, and then literally backstage, he was arguing with the paramedics that he could.
But they didn't let him go back. So do you think that if that was the Carnage Cup, that they would be like, let him go, Nick, let him go?
Probably. Yes. Carnage Cup would fucking let it happen, because, I mean, honestly, there's no rules at Carnage Cup. I mean, the only ones that has rules really is the fans, and that's to, respect everybody and at your age. But other than that, if Spider wanted to go back out, they probably just let him do it.
Yeah, we're gonna have to watch this back sometime and relive it in real time. But what do you think? We watched one of your videos once where it was your famous videos. It was we're deathmatch fans, and you ran off all the things that make you a deathmatch fan, and you talked about how you guys look forward to the next big injury so that you can talk about it on the next video and look at the pictures in the videos. Where's the line for you? What makes it? What do you mean by that when you say you kind of look forward to the next big injury? Like, what's that? Explain that.
Well, growing up, you always seen, and I don't want to shit on nobody, but I mean, like, growing up in the early 2000s, there was always a major injury, whether it be Necro, Butcher, and Pondo. Necro almost losing his arm. I think it was me, the grandfather clock incident. And then we had one in CZW with White Speeder, I think. I mean, we've had them in Carnage Cup, GCW, Slade, and Hoodfoot. I mean, there's so many. And, looking for that injury, you never know where it's going to come from in a death match. And, for instance, you had Otis Kogard going against Hardway Heather in RPW, and Otis just sliced his arm open. I mean, it wasn't, meant to happen. It could happen anywhere. So I'm always looking for that next injury, because I know eventually it's going to happen. I don't want to see nobody die, but if they get injured and they're okay, then I'm okay with it. And I like to cover it on the channel because it's a death match, and the blood and the gore and stuff, and it really gets attention. And I've realized that from my views, the more brutal matches is what people want.
All right, let me ask you this, and there's no wrong answer here. There's no wrong answer. All right, so let's say you see somebody fucking go off the top through like a light tube log cabin, and they get a fucking real brutal, nasty cut. Is your first instinct like, oh, fuck yeah? Or do you worry about, oh shit, is that guy okay?
I could see it like if I'm watching the stream and they don't cut it, the cameraman, and you can actually see the gruesome shit. I'm like, oh, instantly, and you can ask my wife. I'm like, oh shit, I wonder if he's okay. But and then when I find out like he's okay, obviously, I'm not going to be like, oh my god. But if he's okay, I'm like, that was pretty fucking cool. Like, but
Yeah.
if they cut, I'm like, oh my god. So either way, I'm like wondering if they're okay or not. But at the end of the day, if they're okay, stitched up or it's manageable, I'm okay with it and I like talking about it. But there's been stuff in death matches, obviously, we all three know that didn't go as planned. So I hope that answers your question.
Was there
Yeah.
like, can you think of a spot that you saw where you said, "Oh, he's not cool," and they should stop it?
Ooh, good question.
Because I'll say mine right now. When Slade and Hoodfoot did their thing, immediately I actually texted Brett right there, and I said, I was like, I don't know if you're there, but stop that immediately. That was one of the worst ones, easily.
That one, I didn't see it live or nothing, but I rewatched it. The Necro Butcher and Pondo when they did stop that. I honestly gotta say Bryant Woods and Little Sicko when they come off that U-Haul, even though it was done after that. I gotta say there's been plenty of them. So yes, JJ Escobar and Tarzan when JJ got his arm cut open by Tarzan XPW. I'm like, oh my fucking god, stop this before the man bleeds out. Because if you watch it, he takes that knife and slices his forearm. So I was like, fuck, you gotta stop this shit.
Brett?
Steven?
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, we got a lot of fan questions. So here's one. Jay Chang wants to know, and this is good for Skinny Moose. Which deathmatch wrestlers do you have your eyes on that have not been booked in Game Changer yet?
That's for Skinny Moose?
Yeah, so
the question is basically who does he think are the top prospects?
Yeah.
Okay, so I gotta go with honestly, I gotta say my boy JV Anderson and Peace Love and Deathmatch. So that's Anthrax and Alex Stretch. I gotta put them over.
Okay.
I'm not really for sure how he feels about the Deep South boys, but he don't work for the Deep South anymore. I gotta go Brian White. I fucking love Brian, and if you check out his work, I think that y'all would be pretty satisfied. He's a good technical guy. I'd like to see Little Sicko up there because I know he would fit in pretty good, and I know him and Brett Lauderdale would get along pretty well. There's so many possibilities.
Who was the first guy you said?
Oh fuck, JB Anderson.
J.T. Anderson.
JB Anderson, the Hardcore Hoochie Daddy.
Hardcore Hoochie Daddy, and he's one of the Southern boys.
No, he comes from H2O.
Oh, he does?
Yeah.
Damn, how do I not know him?
He just wrestled tonight with Jess Moss. He's a part of the Snack Pack.
Oh my god. All right. Tell us a little bit more about Brian White.
Okay, so Brian was in Carnage Cup. He went one round and he fought who did he face in the first round? It was Little Sicko and John Rare. And in the second round he fought Chewy and he took that gauntlet cauldron thing full of hot sauce, ghost pepper sauce, whatever else was alcohol, salt, and all kinds of stuff was poured in it. And then he went to day 2. He won the Spider Bujo Gauntlet. Then he went to Southern Outlaws. And it took him 12 years to get there. But he comes from the backyard. But then he went to school. He got trained up and everything. And then he started making himself a name in North and South Carolina. as a technical wrestler. 12 years later, he went into Carnage Cup. He done his thing at Deep South. He left, and now he's been wrestling around in the Carolinas and in Georgia.
Interesting.
So,
He's a juggalo, right?
yeah, he's a juggalo. He's the deathmatch juggalo.
But he doesn't ever wrestle for the clowns, though, right?
No, he's never debuted in a JCW.
Interesting. Are you a juggalo?
I would say that I am because I listen to the music and stuff, and I do the whoop whoop. But it depends. Some people say that I'm not. Some people say that I am. So I guess
feel like
it's just a matter of opinion.
it's like there's a line between the music and just being part of the fandom nowadays, right?
I have a question, Steven.
Yeah.
Steven, what is the juggalo?
Well, you're making me think of the lyrics of the song. He walks.
Does Skinny Moose know the answer?
He gets drunk and he puts. I say, how does it go? He gets drunk and he starts putting a weave in between his nut hairs or something like that.
Oh my God. All right. So, Steven, are you a juggalo?
No. Long time
Were
ago.
you a juggalo?
No way, no.
You were never a juggalo.
Like, I mean, I'm from that region, so every one of my friends was, so it was hard not to get into it, you know?
Interesting.
I'm more of a gigolo, though.
Oh. I heard you like the older ladies.
Yes, sir. Love me some grannies.
Steven, what do you think about that?
Well, I think that Lauren Eason wants to know, is there a budget per death matches at a show?
All right, that question should have been saved for a different program. The answer is yes, but next question.
I got one about light tubes, actually. So realistically, let me see who asked this. Alejandro Contreras wants to know, realistically, how much longer do you think the light tubes are going to last?
All right, this is a good question. I'm going to give you my answer, and then then we're going to go to Skinny Moose on this. My answer is, I think we probably got 1 or 2 more years of light tubes before they disappear, because they're still around in stores a little bit. If you look hard, you can find them. They're not completely gone from retail yet. They're close, but not yet. Now, once they're gone from retail, then they're going to start really disappearing from the warehouses and people's garages and shit. So it'll probably take another year or two for them to disappear from all the warehouses, and before you stop seeing posts on Facebook Marketplace, to come pick up these light tubes. So I'd say we probably got about another 1 to 2 years. Although now with Trump, he'll probably roll back every fucking regulation on clean energy and everything. He's probably going to fucking mandate light tubes to be brought back, just because they're bad for the environment. But realistically, I'd say probably a year or two, and then they're going to they're going to be few and far between. But
say that. Do you mean a year or two of like the 200 fucking light tube death matches, or do you mean they're gone?
I mean, I think they'll be gone. I just don't think there'll be anywhere to get them. I mean, we're already, warehouses and whatnot have stopped. They don't install new light tubes. Now they all install LEDs. So where we get most of the light tubes now, are it's when warehouses are changing them out, when they're switching over to LED, or or you get them like 6 or 8 or 10 at a time from a bunch of people that are, get them from their garages, or like they know, a neighbor who just cleared them out. But it used to be, back in the day, when you used to get hundreds of them at a time, it used to be because a warehouse or a store would change out all their light bulbs, and then they would put them out back by their dumpster, or put up an ad, and people would go and, they would be replaced hundreds at a time with new ones. So you used to be able to get them anywhere. They used to be everywhere, anywhere and everywhere. And there was, they were a dime a dozen, literally. Now all those warehouses have been replaced. They don't use T12 light tubes. Now they use LEDs. So there's nothing being replaced anymore. So yeah, I would say give it another year, another 2 years, and there's going to be no more warehouses to phase out. They're all going to be LED. There's going to be no light tubes to buy to replace the old ones because they're not going to be needed, and there's going to be no old ones left. They're going to be gone.
What do you think, Skinny?
I think
Well, I would
that.
say, yeah, go ahead.
I'd say that probably like Brett Lauderdale said, another year or two at buying them. But if people stock up into stuff and keep at it, I'd say maybe another 3 or 4 years. But once the light tubes are gone, I'm kind of for it because they're overused. So there's so much that other people can use. I mean, like Eric Ryan brought in the terracotta pots. I mean, there's so much panes of glass can start being used more. Thumbtacks. I mean, there's just so much.
All right, hold on. I'm going to stop you right there, okay? Everybody says this, okay? Everybody says that. All right, you just said thumbtacks and panes of glass. But let's be real here. You're telling me that light tubes can be overused, but that thumbtacks can't quickly become overused, or barbed wire can't be overused? Any real chud loves light tubes. Let's be real. You're not a chud if you don't love light tubes. That's what took American death matches to the next level. I mean, that's indisputable.
Now,
if you didn't have light tubes, then you're just talking about a hardcore match. That's what it used to be.
Okay, so you're telling me that every death match has to have light tubes. Back in the day, they would use light tubes, but they wouldn't use it every chance they got.
I'm not personally saying they all have to have them.
Well, hold
but
on.
I hear a lot of people.
Skinny
What?
Mood. When I watch Carnage Cup, they literally have like 500 light tubes in one match. Like it is so many light tubes. It is outrageous.
That's what I'm saying. They're overused. People's overusing them, and back in the day, even in Carnage Cup, they had a meaning to use light tubes, and now I feel like everybody uses light tubes. And correct me if I'm wrong, but that's one thing that they should bring back is more contraptions and more people need to think their weapons through because back in the day there was so much other stuff. I mean, yeah, there was light tubes, but y'all gotta admit there was light tubes, yeah, but they wasn't as used as much as they are now.
Interesting. Steven, what's the next question?
I just want to say I disagree. I think that light tubes are the coolest shit, and
Agree.
Compared to the terracotta pots or something, come on. Let's see, Lauren Eason. Okay. Here's one. Alejandro Contreras says, "Who is or was a deathmatch wrestler that you had no idea would do really well in a deathmatch?"
All right. I'll give an answer. I'll give my answer. Cole Roderick, for me, was one that caught me by surprise. Well, actually, he didn't really catch me by surprise, but he did only because I had never seen him in death matches before. But when he stepped up at the Showboat, I forget who the match was against, but maybe it was against Oren Veit, maybe. Anyways, he had not previously been a deathmatch wrestler, and he stepped in and went 0 to 100 real quick, and he was awesome. He had a great deathmatch, which caught a lot of people by surprise.
You gotta say either Marcus Mathers or Alex Bryce.
Wow. Well, when has Alec Price done it?
He was an ICW, one of the ICWs, back in April or May of 2024. And if I'm not mistaken, he went against, damn it, I think he went against Danny D'Amato.
I don't think that match happened yet.
Yeah, I'd have to look it up. Yeah, because I know it's Alex Price and Alex Price and the Chains.
Yeah. Okay. But did he do like glass and everything? Did he bleed?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's
Who
on
was the other one?
Marcus Mathers.
Oh yeah, he's done a few of them. He's crazy.
Reed Walker or Austin Luke's another good one. I was about to say Reed Walker. Austin Luke's another good one.
Uh huh. Interesting. Steven, your answer?
Hoodfoot, maybe. I mean, before that, he was
No.
okay. Never mind then. My answer doesn't mean shit.
Wrong. Wrong.
Okay.
I mean, honestly, another good one would be Killer Cash, Remedy.
Don't know him. It's from Texas, right?
Yeah, he's a Texas boy. He's really good friends with Masada.
Right. Steven, next question.
Actually, like now that I think about it, when I mean this is going way back, but when Takashi Sasaki started doing fucking death matches, he was a DDT normal guy. He had been wrestling for 7 years, and he had won the tag titles, and he had won some smaller belts, and then he went all in on death matches, and he'd be kind of one of those guys actually that I would have never thought
Who?
to Takashi Sasaki from Freedoms.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. He
Interesting.
was like deep into his career before he started doing death matches. Lauren got a good one. What objects in death matches would prove to be more dangerous than we, the audience, might think of, but not be seen as being deadly?
Gusset.
Yeah, gusset plates are pretty deadly. Those things are fucking sharp.
They're sharp.
And
Yeah.
if you're going to say deadly, you got to say light tubes. I mean, fucking Nick Gage, so you got to say light tubes.
Sure.
Now
Those gusset plates really tear people open like a faucet.
Yeah.
Yes, they do. Also, I got to say fucking Kenzas. Once they get stuck, they're in there.
True. Very hard to get out.
For you, Skinny, do you think that gussets give you the viewer the like impact? Because when I see it, it's just kind of people, poke, stab. But I mean, it's very dangerous. But do you still get fucking hyped off of it?
Yeah, I like the gussets. They're not my favorite. They make me cringe sometimes, depending on who's using them and like where they get hit, because it's instant color, and I've seen them just like Brett said, like become a fucking human faucet. But they make me cringe. But yes, to answer your question.
Okay.
Next.
We don't have a lot of questions that would be good here. When do you think we'll get the flat screen TVs in a death match?
We already had them.
All right, I'm asking the question.
Yeah, I feel like we've had plenty of TVs.
All right, Jay Chang, go ahead.
They get used a lot. Yeah, TVs and VCRs and a lot of stuff like that gets used.
What's like a weapon that you've seen at the store or something and thought, oh man, that'd be good?
I mean, we've done a lot of it.
The pigeon spikes are the last thing that I can think of that's like a new weapon, but even that got
that was a lesson to be learned that we should never do that again.
Yeah.
Yeah, the fucking pigeon spikes. Yeah.
Hey, Brett, who thought of that? You?
Okay. Sort of. It wasn't my like original idea, but it was my idea to do it. Somebody had mentioned it. I'm not going to name names. Somebody had mentioned it as an idea for a different show coming up. Somebody involved in GCW. Somebody had mentioned the idea, and I was like, "Oh man, we should." It was my idea, or my idea to do it. I said, "Well, why don't we do it first?" And then we did it, and of course, I immediately regretted it. So Marcus Crane almost died.
That's fucking crazy.
He finished the match. He had a punctured lung, and then he was backstage, And he was like, I don't feel good. And we were all like, oh, I'm sure you're fine. You probably just got like the wind knocked out of you or something. And little did we know, he literally had the wind like fucking knocked out of me. His fucking lung was punctured. And he started like turning purple and he had to sit down. He couldn't walk. And we had to load him into a car and take him to the ambulance.
That's fucking crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. It just goes to show you how tough he was. He had a literal punctured lung and he tried to walk it off.
Got to be tough in a death match, though. So, Marcus Crane was something else, though. He was one that just keep going and going and going and going, and you wasn't going to put him down. So,
True.
Moose, I got a question. So, since you started doing this, I mean, you've talked to probably 100 different fucking wrestlers now. What are some of the kayfabe barriers that have broken down? I mean, what are some of the things that you thought that the wrestling world was like this, but maybe it's like that?
I'm really not for sure. Yeah, I'm really not for sure. That was
okay. Well, like for me, one of them was like I thought, because again, I didn't know anything. I thought that the matches were put together in that the guys had a match, but then there'd be weapons, and they would just use the weapons throughout the match. And then I come to find out that no, every light tube is fucking counted for. If there's 82 tubes out there, there's 82 things planned for each light tube. You know, so it's one of the things that I didn't know until I started to kind of learn. You know.
I gotta say, honestly, some of the workers, they just meet up at like the last 5 minutes before they go out and they just talk for 2 minutes and then they just go out there and have a good show. Like they don't go over anything. They just do it and go on about their day. And I think that's pretty cool. I guess you would sort of say to sit down and get to know them out of the ring and get to know them personally a little bit. It's pretty cool. But yeah, I'll leave it at that.
Yeah. I've only got one more fan question, which is Jay Chang. He wants to know, what are your thoughts on the barbed wire trampolines?
If they're done right, which I've seen a lot of them done right, I love them because I like how they go. A wrestler will get thrown off and they go down and then they bounce back up and then go back down. I find that to be one of my favorite weapons because you can do so much on the barbed wire trampolines.
Right?
Yeah, they're pretty crazy, those things. I don't know. I don't think we've had one at GCW. Have we, Steve?
Nope. No, you have not.
Yeah, they're just crazy. It's very it's a lot of work for like one spot, but maybe someday we'll get one.
Yeah.
Wait, maybe we did have it once.
No, you didn't.
In the backyard?
Yes, we did, I think.
Yeah, I think so. In the backyard. Was it the fourth one?
Who was in the match?
Because I think it was. I'd have to ask Squirrel, but yeah, I could have sworn that GCW had at least one trampoline. I want to say so.
Had it. I'm looking at stuff right now.
I want to say.
Watching Shane Mercer throwing a guy on it but that's POR. Jeez, he's going from the roof to the.
That one's crazy.
Oh my
yes,
God.
That one's insane.
Jeez,
that one's crazy.
Wow. Well, how about we finish out with a list? We got a list of some deathmatch legends, and we want to know what are your thoughts if they're Hall of Fame worthy, if they're top 10, if you think they stink, whatever.
I think it's Hall of Fame or no. That's what we need to. Let's give a couple words about each person, and yes or no on Hall of Fame career.
All right, I'm gonna go through it. Here we go. Ian Rotten.
Go ahead, Skinny Moose first. Go ahead.
Okay. So as a wrestler and as a worker, I can't take from him because he, you might as well say brought kind of like death matches or whatever to America with the first time paid. As a promoter, go fuck yourself. But as a worker, I can't really take anything from him. Is he Hall of Fame worthy? For me, he would ride that thin line if you know what I'm talking about. But I'm just gonna have to leave it with him. He's riding that thin line because he's done a lot for death matches over the years, but he's also screwed death matches over a lot over the years. So
That's a pretty good answer. So I would say, as a wrestler, first of all, he's not a good wrestler. However, from a historic standpoint, you can't take it away from him. He was there. He was there, and he was involved in a lot of them with a lot of the big names. He was around it. He was part of it. He promoted it. I would say, just on the actual resume, he would have to, you almost have to have him in the in American Deathmatch Hall of Fame. Now, with that being said, you know, unfortunately, his legacy is tarnished. It just is, and he will never, and he did it to himself. Unfortunately, he'll never be looked back on and spoke about in the terms that he could have been had he done better business along the way. So that's on him. But you cannot talk about American death matches without talking about IWA Mid-South and without talking about Ian Rotten. So on that alone, I would have to put him, even if it was begrudgingly, I would have to say he would belong in the Deathmatch Hall of Fame. Steven?
I would say yeah, absolutely. Like, I mean, I never even thought about that, but with the Taipei death match, I mean, that's probably the first American televised quote death match ever. And then there's a whole bunch of firsts, and he promoted the tournaments and everything. And actually, Brett, do you think outside of like Jim Crockett and Vince and stuff, has Ian promoted the most fucking wrestling shows in the US outside of the
No.
television guys? Who else comes close?
No. I mean, he's up there. He's got a lot of them.
I mean, some years he was
Well, first of all,
he was putting on
first of
200
all,
shows in 1 year.
hold on. You have to keep in mind, there's a lot of promoters out there you've never heard of because they're running shows that were never taped on Smart Mark Video, that were never taped, they were never streamed, that weren't in the public eye. There's a lot of local shows even to this day that have been going on for 30 and 40 years. So, Ian Rotten was definitely prolific. What?
Are they doing 200 in 1 year?
200? I don't know about 200, but
well, he was.
Maybe 1 year he did that, but I mean, he's very prolific. There's no doubt about that. But if he ran 1,000 shows, 700 of them were probably trash. So,
Yeah.
it's like could you say DJ Hyde is run the most shows because they ran Dojo Wars every week for years? Do you really give them credit? Do you give them credit for running 70 shows a year just because he ran a student show every Wednesday?
Okay.
no.
So, I don't know. It depends. I guess there's a fine line to consider. He definitely ran. Huh?
Well, yes, from me, yes.
Well, sure. He's very prolific. I mean, you cannot take that away. Yes, but is he the most? No, he did not run the most.
Next up, DJ Hyde.
Go ahead, Skinny Moose.
I would say I'm torn between this one again because I would say yes because he comes from the older style of deathmatch wrestling. He's done a lot for CZW, but he's a good wrestler. Not my favorite wrestler, but does he deserve to go in the Hall of Fame? I'm torn again, but I don't want to say no, but I don't want to say yes too. As far as running CZW, I'd say yes, but I gotta say Actually, I do got to say yes because I feel like I was one of the guys outside of, Zendig and Sicknick Mondo and
Mm.
Tremont stuff that paved the way.
Mm. Mm-mm-mm. So you're saying yes?
I got to say yes.
Okay. Well, I say no on all counts. First of all, he did not pave the way in any way. He was associated with some of the OGs, but none of them respected them. None of them liked him, and none of them considered to be a good wrestler. Most of them laughed at him. To this day, they laugh at him. He's not a good promoter. He was never a good wrestler, and yeah, absolutely would not go in a Hall of Fame, and his peers would not put him in the Hall of Fame either. Now, I do respect your opinion as a chud, but I'm just telling you, you'd be one of the only people to vote for him. Steven, where are you on DJ Hyde?
I'm going to say no for the same reason. I can't think of any big match he had, and if he came in and did anything, it was on the heels of other people. So I'll say no.
Absolutely.
Mick Foley.
And you could actually say that he belongs in the Hall of Shame for his run as a promoter.
Next up, Mick Foley.
Definite. Well, I mean, y'all the same person, so definitely yes.
Definitely. Mick Foley is 100% Deathmatch Hall of Fame, all levels of Hall of Fame. A lot of the OGs, as you would call them, list Mick Foley as their inspiration. Guys like Nick Gage, he'll tell you that Mick Foley is the guy that made him want to do hardcore wrestling, deathmatch wrestling. So a lot of, and he's not the only one from that generation. All of them looked up to Mick Foley. So, and guys like Mick Foley, Terry Funk, those guys. So absolutely, Mick Foley would be a first ballot, probably 100% unanimous Hall of Famer.
For me, yes, he was actually my first ever favorite wrestler. And if it wasn't for them showing clips of the King of the Deathmatch tournament on Raw, I might have never even watched fucking death matches, to be honest. So for me, it's a huge yes. Drake Younger.
Let's hear your thoughts, Brett.
Good answer.
Drake Younger is another person who you have to separate his body of work from everything else. From a body of work standpoint, at least from the time he left, from the time he started to the time he left to go to the WWE, I would say that his body of work probably put him in the category of a deathmatch Hall of Famer. He was a leader. He was a leader of his generation, which is basically the generation that came, after the Nick Gage. He was the one. He was there with the J.C. Baileys and the Danny Havoc's. He was one of the standouts of that generation, and he absolutely was. He had an undeniable, unbreakable spirit. His heart, his enthusiasm. All of those things, hunger, passion. He had everything you needed to be a successful deathmatch wrestler, and he was good. He was a good wrestler. He wasn't just a. He was above the level of a hack and slasher. He could wrestle. He tried to wrestle in his death matches, and he hung with the best. So I would put him as a deathmatch Hall of Famer, and I would say that his unfortunately, he's also probably somebody who, in some circles, the second half or the end of his career, probably, haven't gone the way that he would have liked or that others would have liked. But you can't undo what's already been done. So, for that, I would put him in the Deathmatch Hall of Fame.
I definitely got to say that he definitely deserves to go to the Hall of Fame. He's one of the guys that I grew up watching. Let's see, he's done a lot in death matches. I mean, he's fought, in multiple promotions. Like Brett said, he's, always tried to incorporate technical wrestling in with the death match. I find a lot of enjoyment out of him. And I don't know him as a person, but I've known him as a worker, so he's always been cool. I've actually talked to him before. He's a pretty cool guy. So with what I've seen and what little I know about him, I definitely got to say Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Steven?
Definitely. I mean, I think in the 2000s, it was him and Danny Havoc and a few others that were really elevating the genre or whatever. For me, Drake Younger was always someone I wanted to watch. So I would say, yeah. All right. Next up, Alex Colon.
Definitely.
Go on.
The Blood Fighter. I grew up watching Alex Colon. Let's see, he's had many good fights, and he's coming back to CZW to wrestle Nick Gage. He's won a tournament over there in fuck, I forgot. Over in GCW. He's fought multiple guys. He's also not only a good deathmatch wrestler, but another good technical wrestler. And he's done stuff to his body that would make, I guess, not just me, but other chuds sit there and wonder, like, how can he do this and what makes him just keep going and going and going? And for him to do what he's done and for him to be in it so long, you would think that he would retire by now, but he's still going strong. So I definitely got to say, Hall of Fame for me.
I would say he's another guy. Body of work, definitely. He had a good, I would say, 3, 4, 5 year run as one of, if not the best deathmatch wrestlers in the game. He definitely, he hung with the best, and I mean, he went a couple of years without having a bad deathmatch. So, it's deathmatch careers. The lifespan of people, in their prime, you only get a few years in deathmatch wrestling where you're, really, in your prime. The prime of deathmatch wrestling is a lot shorter than your regular wrestling career. Guys can only go as hard as somebody like Alex Colon did for, again, a handful of years before you have to slow down. And but he made the most of his years for sure. So I would say just by the body of work, he would be Hall of Fame worthy.
I would say definite yes, because I don't know about you, Skinny Moose, but I like a certain type of fucking wrestling, and like Alex is that type. His matches are serious. There's no jokes. He never pulled out a plunger. He never had a dildo shoved in people's mouth. He never went out to do comedy spots. Like, it was a fucking death match, and it felt real, and it felt like a fight anytime. He got the camel clutch over as a serious finisher. Like, he would put that on, and the whole crowd jumped up because they knew that was the end of the fucking match. And to me, Alex Colon is one of the last guys of that style. So for me, definite yes. Next up, one of the newer guys, Drew Parker.
I gotta say, Drew. I like Drew Parker. He's, like you just said, a newer guy. I mean, can't take anything away from him, but at the end of the day, what makes a Hall of Famer a Hall of Famer? So I don't want to say that he don't go to the Hall of Fame, but I understand why he would go in the Hall of Fame. He's young. He's put his body through so much. But I'd say no as of right now because, like, he's still young. And, if he's done retired once, but he came back. So I'd like to see him make bigger accomplishments and then get put in it. But if he was to go into the Hall of Fame now, I would be just as happy because I can't take nothing away from him. He's entertained me over the years. So I'm neutral on this one.
I would say that you're overlooking Drew Parker's resume and his accomplishments. I think you're forgetting that Drew Parker had a whole deathmatch career already in Japan, where he was Big Japan Deathmatch Champion, Freedom's Deathmatch Champion. This guy main evented Korakuen Hall with all the greats: Jun Kasai, Masashi Takeda, Ryuji Ito, Abdullah Kobayashi. He's wrestled all of them in Japan multiple times, beat them all on the biggest stages. And that's just the stuff he's done in Japan. He's also, of course, GCW Ultra Violent Champion and won, what was it? Yes, hello?
Yeah, he won
TOS.
Yeah.
Yep. So Drew Parker, absolutely, his resume, his accomplishments, his achievements are actually up there at the top of not just any active deathmatch wrestler, but any retired deathmatch wrestler. Drew Parker can go pound for pound, trophy for trophy, title for title with anybody in the history. And I would say even if he retired today, definitively for good, he would also be a Hall of Famer.
I'm more, I don't want to say 50-50, but I'm 60-40 in that he didn't go as long, but he had one of the best years as far as titles and kayfabe. In one solid year, he won the BJW title twice, and then he vacated that. Then he won the Freedoms title. He won the BJW tournament. He won the TOS, and then he had pins over Takeda and Alex and Jun Kasai all in one calendar year, and Ito. And I don't think anybody has ever had, from a kayfabe point of view, a year like that. But his career was short. I go 40. So.
Okay, well, here's the thing. Again, the deathmatch careers are shorter.
True.
You don't have to get 3,000 base hits or hit 700 home runs to be in the Deathmatch Hall of Fame. Just look at Sick Nick Mondo. He had an incredibly short run, but he's looked at as one of the all-times. He's looked at as a Mount Rushmore guy, but his prime of death matches was like 1 year, 2 years. So, and he retired in his prime, on the spot and walked off into the sunset, and he was celebrated for it. So, I think Drew Parker, and if you compare him to Sick Nick Mondo, Drew Parker is levels above Mondo.
Next up, John Rare.
I definitely got to say yes for me.
Why?
Well, because, okay, so John started out in his backyard, and he said that if he never went mainstream, he would have been happy, staying in the backyard. But he went, or mainstream, went, I guess you would sort of say, into a big promotion or, actually a promotion. He would have stayed happy in his backyard. But you got to look what he's done for Southern death matches. I mean, a lot of people don't like him. Everybody has an opinion, but he's done a lot for death matches, in the South, mostly like Alabama and Tennessee and stuff. And he's put his body through a lot of hell and hardship and stuff. So,
Steven, I'm going to let you go, and then I'm going to talk about John Rare.
I'm going to say no. I think I'm again. I don't even know how many matches he's really even had, right? I mean, I think that he's had one or two crazy sicko wild matches, but I've never seen a John Rare match and said, I got to show this to somebody because it was so good versus because he stabbed somebody, right? I don't know if Brett, if you want to add to that.
Well, I'm going to let you finish, and then I'll go.
That's about it. I just think that when we're talking about Drew Parker and Nick Gage and Nick Mondo, I don't see John Rare in that same thing. I don't know if he's had matches of that caliber.
Mm-hmm. So you're a no on John Rare.
I'm a no, yeah.
Okay, I'm also a no on John Rare. If we were making a Southern Chud match, death match Hall of Fame, then I would probably put John Rare in the Southern Chud match Hall of Fame. Now, in the real Deathmatch Hall of Fame, I'm sorry, John Rare does not belong in it. He's not of the same caliber, like you said, of a guy like a Nick Gage, a Sick Nick Mondo, a Drew Parker, a Alex Colon, a John Wayne Murdoch. He's just simply not in the same category. For all the reasons that you celebrate him, Skinny Moose, and those are all noble reasons that you like him and that you're a fan of his. And, you could say, he's done a lot for those down south Chud guys. And perhaps he has, but also at the same time, I think he's also done a lot to set back Southern Deathmatch Wrestling. You know, he's very stunt oriented. He's very pushing the envelope in terms of, you know, in a lot of ways between what you could say is actually wrestling and what's literally just doing a stunt. You know, for a literal observer, and if you're just you know, if you just want to be entertained and shocked and you just want to see guys gushing blood or doing crazy shit, then I would say, you know, John Rare was a good shock entertainer. But in terms of wrestling and deathmatch wrestling, if you're talking about the actual greats, he's not in the same category. He is not in the same league. And while I have nothing against the guy, and you know, I would actually be happy to talk to him. Actually, I would be happy to talk to him on this here program sometime. I would just say that he is just, unfortunately, he is not in the league of the actual Hall of Famers. What do you think of that, Skinny Moose?
I mean, that's your personal opinion. I'm a fan of John. I've seen that man go through some hell. He wrestled with I think his hip surgery or knee surgery or something like that against Spider. He's done some intense stuff, but, you know, opinions, everybody has one.
They do.
And
true.
You know, John Rare is one of those guys. All the Deep South guys, you're not going to like them. Either you like a Deep South guy or you don't. And John is more towards one that you have to really get behind. And I've always been a fan of John because he's done more of the hardcore stuff. And I know people make fun of him for the explosions and, you know, stabbing Spider and stuff. But once you look past that, he's not really a bad wrestler. And another good one I like is Bryant Woods.
Well, hold that thought. We're gonna have to come back to Bryant Woods, but I'll just give a closing thought on John Rare. Again, I have nothing against the guy. I don't dislike him as a person. I do have respect for him, and I agree. You know, he's definitely a tough guy. He's got a lot of heart. But we're talking about Hall of Famers, and that's reserved for the best of the best. And personally, my opinion is he's not there. But, you know, see, you keep mentioning him as a Southern guy. You have to take that label off. If you want to talk about the best of the best, you can't say he was the best of the South. It's either he's the best of the best or he's not. So, yeah, anyways, nice guy, but does not get my vote, does not get Stephen A's vote, but he does get Skinny Moose's vote. So he got one. So that's good. Stephen A, who's next?
That'd be Ricky Shane Page.
Go
ahead, Skinny Moose.
I gotta say Ricky's had a lot of accomplishments. So my personal point of view, I don't want to take away from him because he's one of the founders of 440. I mean, he's had a lot of good death matches. I've heard that he has a bleeding disorder, but we're not going to talk about that. But he has a lot of good accomplishments, and this is one of those answers that's either going to make you like yes or no. So like, I'm just going to go with yes because he's done a lot, and he's been in a lot, and he's fought a lot of big name guys. So, and he's done a lot of accomplishments in his career. So I got to go with yes.
Brett?
You go first, Steven.
I'd say yes. I mean, he's a TOD winner at least once. See, I miss that whole era of wrestling that he was like really active. So most of what I know is when he came in with 440, but he carried that program for 18 months or 2 years, and he got more mileage out of 440 than Hulk Hogan got from the NWO. For me, 50-50. Yeah, I'll leave it at that. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel that like you take away his like all the big things he's done, and I mean like that's what makes somebody a Hall of Famer. But if you take away like, you know, most of his accomplishments, I gotta say no. So I'm like Steven, I'm 50-50. Like it's a hard one. That one's a hard one.
Mm-hmm. And I am going to also say I'm about 50-50 on Ricky Shane Page. As a performer, I do think he's very skilled, and he's a talented performer, but he's had kind of a weird career, a lot of stops and starts. I don't think that we've seen. Well, I don't want to say that he's inconsistent, but it's he's a lot of in the deep end to in the shallow end and out. He's dipping his toe in and out. And I think, outside of his work in GCW, I'm actually not sure, what his crowning accomplishments would be. He did have a good run in GCW, but does he have enough outside of it for long enough to carry him into the Hall of Fame right now? I would be somewhere in the middle on that. As a bipartisan chud, I would be torn on which way to vote on my ballot.
Yeah, and even though we wanted to say, oh, he won a TOD, but so did Jimmy Lloyd. So did quite a few people that, didn't go on to do much after that. And he never had like big fucking title runs or anything. So yeah, I don't know. I'm actually going to go from 50-50 to 49-51, which brings him under the threshold. So Next up, Mickey Knuckles.
Yes.
Go on.
All right, so one of the first, you might as well say actually the first woman deathmatch wrestler. She's been in it over 20 years, and she has bled buckets for, can't say every promotion, but so many promotions. She's, one of them women. When you mention a deathmatch, actually, you instantly got to bring up Mickey Knuckles. I mean, that's like mentioning a fucking deathmatch without bringing up Necro Butcher or Toby Klein or Madman Pondo. I mean, she's either agree with me or not. She's one of the ones that's paved the way for not only the younger generation, but a lot of these young women too. And she's inspired a lot of women growing up to who they are now. So I definitely have to say, yes, Mickey Knuckles deserves the Hall of Fame.
All right. I don't know, man. I'm 50-50 because, like, again, she's from that era where it was a lot harder back then, and she wrestled back then, and by back then, I mean, like, pre-2014 or so, people just wrestled a lot more. It was a lot harder to be seen, and there was a lot more shit fucking going on, and it was a lot harder of a lifestyle. I mean, fucking death matches from 2008 were a lot more dangerous than now because guys didn't know how to kayfabe shit, how to safety stuff. And I remember a couple of those matches that she had against like Scotty Vortex and like Ian Rotten that were brutal, like just bloody, brutal, stiff with headbutts and like shoot fucking light tube swings. And she went for a long, long time, and she was the only woman doing it. And they didn't, the fucking intergender matches back then, they weren't like now. Like back then, it was very fucking brutal. Mickey Knuckles is tough. She's very tough, and she took a lot of time off and came back in the past, I don't know, it's been like 5 years or so. He's had some really nasty, brutal shit. I don't know if she's worthy of a Hall of Fame nod, but she's worthy of a special mention as one of the toughest, women, or maybe overall fucking toughest people to ever do it. You know what I mean? But she's just never had that big run. She's never had a title and carried it. She's never carried a company. So I'm kind of 50-50, but she is incredibly tough for sure.
Okay, I'm back.
Okay.
So Mickey Knuckles is definitely a tough one. This is what I'll say about Mickey Knuckles. Mickey Knuckles has never been a great wrestler. She's never been a very good wrestler. She's always been about average. Now, what I will say is Mickey Knuckles has been in there with some of the toughest motherfuckers and taken some of the toughest, most brutal beatings of any deathmatch wrestler ever. She came up at a time where there was no easy entry. You couldn't just there was a lot fewer points of entry to becoming a deathmatch wrestler, and she had to absolutely earn her place, and she did. She she has stood the test of time. She has her heart is unquestionable, her spirit, her toughness, all of those things. If you were making a video game and you had to give a rating, all of those things on her would be a 10. She would be as high as it goes. Toughness, heart, passion, spirit, she would be a 10 on all of those. And those things make up for all of her shortcomings. So, I don't know. She's not, when you think of what the word Hall of Fame is, she doesn't instantly jump out at you as a Hall of Famer. She's not Hank Aaron. She's not Kobe Bryant. She's not Babe Ruth. She's not Barry Bonds. She's not those guys. But she is one of those players who played for 20 years and, she hit 25 home runs a year for 20 years, and she compiled a body of work or a career, a longevity, and playing, and through so many different generations of deathmatch wrestlers and facing all of them, where she would be one of those people who, the baseball writers who vote on the Hall of Fame, they wouldn't vote her in, but then it would go to that special panel. It would go to that special panel of like the veterans where they all get to vote somebody in, and they would vote her in. So I think, she'd be one of those that would get in by one vote. She would get into the Hall of Fame, something like that.
Would you even, I know that this is going to sound stupid and Brett will make a big joke of it, but I'm just, just follow me. Is it if you okay, fucking Bruiser Brody, he's a guy who, he was a punch kick, brawly, bloody kind of guy. He wasn't a great fucking wrestler, but and he never won belts. He would jump from fucking company to to company. But he's considered one of the all-time greats because the aura around him could never be matched. Is it almost like that in a way?
Who did you say?
Bruiser Brody.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't know if Mickey Knuckles is Bruiser Brody. Jesus.
I'm not saying she is, but it's a similar thing where just from being so tough and being such entertaining, person to watch.
She's somebody who can walk in a room and you just have to respect her. Even if you think she sucks, you have to respect her because she's been there and she's been through it, and she's still here. So I absolutely respect her.
Let's go with one of the regional guys, Chuck Stein.
Go ahead, Skinny Moose.
I gotta say, I'm torn, so I might have to go neutral on this one because I like Chuck Stein, and Chuck's done a lot of the Detroit way, but I'm gonna stay neutral on this one. I'm 50-50.
Skinny Moose, you sound like you're hesitant to give go on the record here. It's okay you can say nice things about somebody and say that and still say they're not a Hall of Famer.
I mean, I don't want to say he has a lot of accomplishments, but he's a workhorse. I give him that. He's went all out. He's put his 100 in every time, but as far as him being a Hall of Famer, I don't think that he's reached that level, and I know that this is probably the wrong answer. I love Chuck Stein. He's a hell of a worker. I love, everything that he does. I like his baseball gimmick and stuff. But I don't think that either I'm not clicking with Chuck Stein because I like him, or I just ain't seen a match that really oh my God, it's my favorite Chuck Stein match. He's had a lot of good matches, but I don't think I have a favorite Chuck Stein match. And
All right.
like you said about Mickey Knuckles, I gotta say he's up there in the top tier, but I think he's right below the Hall of Fame level. And I'm not meaning that in no disrespect.
Let me ask you this. This is one way that might make this easier to answer this question. Do you think Chuck Stein would say he's a Hall of Famer?
Probably not, because I've realized a lot of workers do not like to put themselves over. So, and I've realized a lot of wrestlers,
Okay,
they're
I'll
like,
give you the answer here. I'll give you the answer because you're being very generous, and that's okay. The answer is no. Chuck Stein is not a Hall of Famer. It's nothing against him. You know, he's very popular in the Detroit area. He's had a good run
yeah,
there. He's well liked. He's got he's been around for a while, and everybody there in Detroit seems to think pretty highly of him. But Chuck Stein has, unfortunately, and just to be clear, this doesn't mean he could never become one or he can't ever level up. But if we had to vote today, the answer would be no. He is not a Hall of Famer. You know, he would have to get out there
where
more. He has to diversify his resume. He has to wrestle more of the great wrestlers and more promotions. He has to make the rounds. And again, it's nothing against him. He just doesn't have the resume yet.
where is he? Like you just said, where is he really known besides Detroit? I
He's
mean, he
not.
gets the bookings, but as far as big name, like, where's he actually been to besides Detroit and Japan? And I don't want to take from him, but like, he's been in it so long, he should have like a bigger name, if you know what I mean.
Well, and that might tell you something about where he is on the totem pole. You know, he might just not be that good. And listen, again, I'm going to admit right now, I've probably seen less than 5 Chuck Stein matches. So, maybe I just haven't seen enough. And again, I have nothing against the guy. Uh, I'm not even saying he sucks. All I'm saying is, it's a simple answer on this one. Is he a Hall of Famer? And the answer is no. Stephen A., go ahead.
No. Yeah, he's I mean, he and as Brett said, does he think that he is? I mean, he doesn't. I don't think he really takes it that seriously. I think it's something fun to do in his fucking hometown, and that's the end of it. You know, he
Well,
doesn't.
my point when I asked that question was, I don't think you'd be hurting his feelings to tell him that he's not a Hall of Famer. You know, like I don't think that he walks around thinking like, what? How could they say that? You know, Chuck Stein probably thinks that he has to, and he's probably eager and wants to get out there and prove that he is. I mean, Hall of Fame is a whole different thing too. We're really just talking about the Hall of Fame for the sake of this discussion. So, but Chuck Stein is, I'm sure he's a good guy. I actually don't know him personally. But anyways, who's next, Stephen A?
Or invite.
This is a good one. But Skinny Moose, go ahead.
I think I'm gonna have to let you go this round.
Okay, I'll lead off. Let's let Stephen A lead off. Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say no. I think that he had a lot of promise at one point. You know, he came in and he had those two back-to-back Chicago matches for Game Changer Wrestling against Eric Ryan and G Raver. I don't know which came first, but both were just these off-the-wall, insane fucking death matches. And then from a match quality point of view, I've never seen another match of that fucking caliber. And I think when he's been put in positions to have higher profile matches, he's never like matched it. And it's very start and stop. He's never carried a company. He's never carried a title. So for me, I think that he's there. He's fine, but not a Hall of Famer.
I gotta agree with Steven. He's had some good matches. I mean, he's had that Iron Man match with John Wayne Murdoch. He's been in Game Changer. He won Insane 8. But he's had a lot of I'm gonna retire, I'm not gonna retire, or I'm gonna retire for a day and then like the next day he's back. Um, I don't really think that he deserves the Hall of Fame spot right now. I mean, if he sticks at it, maybe someday. But he's another one that will put his body through some hell. But I really don't think that he's to that level or to that point right now.
All right. So we have 2 no votes, and now I'm going to cast my vote. Oren Veit has had I would say that he has had a good run. He's had some very good matches, very, very good matches. I think the only thing that Oren Veit has not had is a long enough level of consistency. He hasn't been able to string together, one or two, 2 or 3 years together of high level matches. Now, I will also say this about Oren Veit. I don't really see him have any bad matches. He's like I would call him. He's like a 300 hitter. If we're doing more baseball comparisons, he hits about 300 with like 18 home runs and like 75 RBIs. He's like a number 5 hitter in the lineup, number 6 hitter, very solid. He could be in the starting lineup any day, but he's not the cleanup hitter. He doesn't have any MVP awards or any championships, but he's very good. I would always want him on my team. I do still have him on my team. We still have him on GCW a few times a year. He just had a pretty good match with Nick Gage last year, I think it was, at GCW in Denver. Was it Nick Gage, Steven? Who was it against? Do you remember, Skinny Moose? Well, he just had one. He just had one with Dr. Redacted in November, I think it was. But he had one, or maybe it was October. It was October. And then I think he had one with Nick Gage earlier in the year. So I would say that he's actually had his batting average is pretty high. It's just, I think he just needs. I think. Excuse me. I think if Oren could have one or two more good years with, with appearances in multiple companies, I think he could get there. I'm not willing to write him off. I just think he's right below the threshold right now. Or if he retired today, would he be in it? Yeah, I would flip a coin, to be honest.
Respect that.
John Wayne Murdoch.
Definitely.
Go on.
I guess I want to hear a lot of it because everybody knows that that's one of my favorite wrestlers. But Murdoch has done a lot, and I know what he's. That spot we ain't gonna hit that though. But look, he's carried the deathmatch title, the ICW belt. He was the first one to hold it. Look at what he's done over there in GCW. Him and Alex Colon. I mean, him by himself. He's had many. He's been everywhere. You might as well say. And when I interviewed Decatur was like, he's more of a technical wrestler, and he gave it more of a technical match. But Slack was more of a hard hitter. So I was like, okay, so when you fight Murdoch, you might as well say you're going to get a death match, but you're also going to get the good technicality. And Murdoch's been giving it his all for the past 15 years or longer. So I can't take nothing from Murdoch. So I'm going to definitely have to say, yes, he deserves to go in the Hall of
Fame.
Yes, I would say Murdoch is now registered enough big matches, championships, accolades, accomplishments where he has absolutely earned his way in, and he is a Hall of Famer.
I would say yes. Just to repeat what you guys have said. So yeah, 100% yes. Let's do like 2 more. How about two Tough Tony?
Skinny Moose, come on.
I'd say look at his accomplishments, but I'm going to this is a tough one for me, but
I'll start out this one. I'll start out this one. For me, it's a no, but because when he was around, it was a lot harder to be seen. He spent a lot of years in Japan with Pondo, where he did a lot of stuff there. and then there weren't a lot of other companies in America to really be seen. So I think that, again, I'll say no, but if he was located in Jersey and he was winning he was winning TODs and belts and he was being seen more, maybe it'd be different, right? But that's so for me, it's a no, but at the same time, I respect all the stuff he has done for 20 years now or more.
Yeah, go to Skinny Moose on this one, and then I'll go.
I gotta say yes because look at what he's done. But I'm gonna have to agree with Steven and say, no, because he's known, but like Steven said, he could have got more if he was in the right place. But I'm still gonna stay neutral on this one because also, so I guess I'm gonna go with no.
All right, interesting. So we have 2 no votes on Too Tough Tony. Now, I'm going to give you the answer, the true answer about Too Tough Tony. Too Tough Tony is another guy. He is not Kobe Bryant. He's not Barry Bonds. He was never the MVP of the league. He was never the face of the league, any of that stuff. However, Too Tough Tony was there for it all. He was there for the real birth of an explosion of American deathmatch wrestling. He was there amongst the greats. He accumulated. His story is his career is one of endurance and durability, and accumulating stats over not just a few years but over decades. As Steven said, he was in Japan. He was all over the United States, not at all times, but, a little bit of time here, a little bit of time there. And he put in a body of work. And I would say, is Too Tough Tony on Mount Rushmore? He is not on Mount Rushmore. Is Too Tough Tony a Hall of Famer? I personally would vote yes. I would vote Too Tough Tony. Yes. I have him in by just a hair. I have him in at a 51-49. I like his body of work, and I'll tell you what puts him over the edge. There's one reason why I put him in as a yes instead of a no, and that's because he's still active and he's still going and he's still good. So he's still padding the stats. He's still hitting home runs and racking up RBIs and putting up good seasons. So I would say Too Tough Tony for longevity, for a consistent decades-long career gets into the Hall of Fame.
Let's do one more. This will be a good one. How about Danny DeMonto?
No.
Oh, no. No. Why no? That was the first no from Skinny Moose.
What? I mean, he's had some accomplishments. He's ran ICW. But where do y'all think that Danny would belong in the Hall of Fame? Honestly.
Well, listen, we're going to give our answer in a minute, but we need to hear you give a full summary. So what?
I've never really. Danny's had some good matches, but most of his matches are intergender. And I've noticed that here lately. And, his best match that I've seen him in probably would be the one that he had against John Wayne Murdoch this year in ICW. So, not taking nothing away from Danny, but as a worker, no. I mean, the only accomplishment that I think he's really done is, well, he run ICW because he didn't start it. So, I mean, that's just me.
Steven, go ahead, and then I'll give
Plus,
what will be.
I know this is off topic, but I was told, I was like, let's do an interview. And he's like, well, you got to pay me. And I'm like, okay, I understand paying you, but bro, why am I going to pay you? And then he's like, well, to be a good podcaster, you got to go to school. And I'm like, wait, when the fuck do you got to go to school to be a good fucking interviewer? That's just
Wow.
me. That's
All
just
right.
me. And I'm like, but that's me and him. So I just don't see where he's belongs on the Mount Rushmore. I don't see where he belongs in the Hall of Fame. I do not see, you know.
Steven, go ahead.
Yeah, it's a no. As a wrestler, I can't think of one match he's ever had where I'm like, holy shit, did you see that? And in fact, like more so than that, I'm gonna say no because Danny is the king of smoke screening, shitty stuff. I think that ICW was novel at one point, and I think that it attracted top tier guys for a moment. But the chains is fucking stupid. And the company just goes down, 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 down.
So this is what I'll say. Danny is absolutely a level above DJ Hyde. He is not. He is not a complete and total loser of a wrestler. Now, what I will say is Danny's resume, and again, we're just going by a wrestler here. Danny's best, well, I shouldn't say best. Danny's most notable work and matches have been matches in places where he's booked the matches himself. They're matches that he's given himself, put himself in, and had full control over. Now, that doesn't necessarily take away and say, well, that match that he had that was entertaining wasn't entertaining. No, I'm not trying to say that. What I'm trying to say is Danny never really had to, or Danny has never really gone out and put together a resume on the same level as some of the other Hall of Famers we've mentioned out in the wilderness. You know, he doesn't have a deathmatch resume from CZW. He doesn't. No, I'm not saying he never had one, but he doesn't have a resume like the Hall of Famers. He doesn't have a Hall of Fame resume in CZW. He doesn't have one in GCW. He doesn't have one in IW and Mid South. He doesn't have one in. He doesn't even have one in the most brutal and the most vicious tournament ever, the Carnage Cup. He doesn't have it anywhere. His resume all comes from home. And so, he would probably be a Chains Hall of Famer, but would he be a Deathmatch Hall of Famer? I would say no, he would not be a Deathmatch Hall of Famer, at least not yet. And, he probably has no desire to build a resume anywhere else. He's very happy being a big fish in the no-holds-barred Chains universe. I think he enjoys. I think the reason why he doesn't go out there and try to wrestle other places is because he's probably content being the big fish in the Chains pond. So he would probably be more than happy to be a Chains Hall of Famer. Yeah, I mean, again, I'm not. I don't even really have to give an opinion if he's good or not. It's just literally he doesn't have enough work to put him. He doesn't have a body of work on the level of all the other Hall of Famers we've mentioned. So I would not be voting for him for the Hall of Fame.
Well, we got 500 more names, but we'll stop it there. But this
Save some.
Fun. Yeah, it's been fun.
So Skinny Moose, thank you for participating in our first ever, our reborn World of Deathmatch. I hope that you enjoyed being a part of it and joining this conversation here. Like I said, we have in the world of chuds, we hold you in high chud regard. And like I said, I told Stephen, hey, you're a chud expert. So, I hope that you've enjoyed being a part of it. And I would like to do this again sometime if you're up for it. What do you think about that?
Oh, yeah, I'd love to come back on. Hit me up whenever, y'all. I'd love it. I had fun. So definitely hit me up. And I'll, by then, I should have my whole studio put up, and I'll hit y'all with a more professional interview. So definitely.
Yeah, and I would be very curious to know all the subscribers to the GCW Patreon that are going to be listening to this. Let us know what you think of Skinny Moose, and let us know if you think we should bring this back as a semi-regular program. If you'd like to see more, or if you would like to hear more from Skinny Moose, if you have questions, throw them up in the thread that we post this in, and we'll save them for next time we talk to him. And yeah, let us know what you think. Should Skinny Moose, now that Skinny Moose just voted on all these Hall of Famers, let's have everybody at the GCW Patreon vote on Skinny Moose. Do we bring him back, or should we send him back to the Deep South? That's what we need to know. But yeah, thank you for joining us. Thank you for thanks for being a part of it. And Steven, do you have any closing words for Skinny Moose?
No, this was fun. In fact, I'm really, I'm always at all times trying to train the guy who's going to take over for me and hosting these shows.
That's not happening.
Ride off. So hopefully you can, be one of my students here. But
oh my God.
Yeah. But no, actually, Brett brought up the idea. Before we go, I want to, ask. Brett brought up that next time we do this, we ought to watch a few of those classics like John Rare and Spider Boudreaux, so we can watch it as a trio. But I really want to watch Skinny Moose. Do you remember a match from the IWA Mid-South? I don't even remember who was in it. I'm pretty sure it was Freak Show and somebody else in a tag match, but it was a fire death match, and it was like at a bar. And
I was there.
Brett was there, and I want to know, does Skinny Moose know about this match?
Sounds familiar, but
I think it was Ian Rock and Freak Show in a fire death match, and they did not skimp on the fire. And
first of all, it was flaming no rope barbed wire.
Okay, go on.
Well, yeah, you're leaving out key elements. That's all.
Okay. Well, either way, they both got really badly burned, and it was like a Tuesday show at a bowling alley or something, right?
No, it was not. It was not a Tuesday. It was part of. I want to say it was part of a bigger weekend. I don't remember it.
Well,
I just remember it was Sellersburg, Indiana, and I was there.
Find that match. I'd want to watch that match next time that we.
There's a school bus next to the ring too.
All right, I just go ahead. Was Pondo on the show?
Probably.
I think I might have seen that. But yeah, if y'all ever want me to come back, just hit me up. Y'all know where to find me. The Child's Boy Moose. But yeah.
Oh yeah, give us your plugs. If people want to get to know more about you or watch your stuff, where do they go?
You can find me on YouTube, Deathmatch Avengers, TikTok, Skinny.Moose. Instagram is the Skinny Moose, if I'm not mistaken. I can't think of X off the top of my head. My Snapchat's, I think, Skinny Moose 1, and my Facebook's Chris Kyle. So hit me up. And before I go, Brett Lauderdale, name me some boys from GCW you would like me to interview from your roster.
Jimmy Lloyd, Cole Roderick, Steven, who do you think would be good for Skinny Moose to interview?
Joey Janela.
Joey would be good, but Joey would be tough to get him to commit. He doesn't do many of these. He'd be a good one, though, probably. Maybe I would say start with
Joey. Loves fucking wrestling. Joey loves all of this wrestling.
You know what? I'll tell you what Joey would probably do. He probably wouldn't be great at an interview, but he probably would be great at a watch along. But yeah, I would start with Jimmy Lloyd, Cole Roderick. They'd be two good ones for you.
All right.
Maybe I can connect you.
Yes, that sounds good. Thank you, though.
Okay. All right, Steven, wrap us up, Steve.
This has been fun. It's been the World of Deathmatch version 3.0. These are the test episodes. Let us know what you think. And we'll see you later.
God bless.
Peace.
We all know the overrated deathmatch wrestlers who wouldn't last a day in the IW Deep South. carnage cut the most brutal and ultra-violent deathmatch tournament in the world. Alex Cole, Pussy, Matt Tremont, Mick Gage, Pussy, Dylan Casaru, Jimmy Lloyd, Pussy, Eric Ryan, washed up, RSP, Pussy, Ryuji Ito. I'm talking real ultra-violent deathmatch legends like Terry Houston, Spider-Man Brown, John Webb Tank. Don't forget the best promoter in the history of deathmatch wrestling, Kevin